Welcome to the Contrarians, where we are right and you are wrong. I'm Julio.
And I'm Alex. Here on the show, we rage against the Rotten Tomatoes machine. For the first half of each episode, Contrarians Corner, we trash the fresh red tomatoes and praise the rotten green splotches, making our case any way we can.
The aptly titled Real Talk serves as the second half of each episode. This is where we discuss our true feelings on the movie we're covering. For more information on our podcast and to browse past episodes, you can head over to our website, wearethecontrarians.com.
From there, you can also access our Patreon and merchandise, because capitalism.
If you enjoy our attempts at comedic film discussions, we encourage you to subscribe and leave us a review on whatever podcatcher you use.
If you'd like to reach out to us directly, that's what social media is for. You can find us on most platforms as @ContrarianPrime.
You can also see what we look like if you go to youtube.com/@ContrarianPrime, and you can contact us by email at wearethecontrarians@gmail.com.
I think that covers it.
Then it's time for the podcast. And we are recording for Contrarians Corner for The Fugitive.
Hello, and welcome to the Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong. My name is Alex, joined as always by my fellow brother of the contrary, Julio Oliveira. This is our first time recording post-WrestleMania, and it's our first time recording in nearly a month, as Julio had some stuff going on in his life, and I obviously took one hell of a trek to Las Vegas. And
we came back, and the platform we used to record is gone, Alex. Skype, RIP.
I know, we're on Zoom. I joked with Julio that it feels like work now. The purpose of that lead-in was, Julio, in the time I've been away from you, in Vegas, I was called a contrarian more than once. I initially had my Twitter handle just to kind of promote our podcast, but that has become who I am to, internet friends and whatnot. Our buddy Joel Hubert referred to me numerous times as just the contrarian, or he would just say brother contrarian. And we actually met a few people who were fans of the Late Night Grin, which is awesome. And one of them greeted me by just going, "Contrarian Alex," and it just tickled me so much that someone just referred to me like that in the wild. So wasn't quite the same without Julio there. I don't know if he could have handled a week of pro wrestling shenanigans, but Contrarian Alex and Contrarian Julio, maybe a voyage to Sin City one day. Well,
it will happen. We've been teasing it every couple of years, and maybe when we get a new president, that's how we celebrate, Alex.
There you go, and we'll reenact the scene from Showgirls on the. I think they're at the Miracle Mile having champagne when Gina Gershon's like explaining this is how it works. So, something to look forward to.
Why Showgirls? Why not Swingers or? I don't know, Vegas Vacation.
I don't know, because Gina Gershon's hot as shit specifically in that scene. So that's something to look forward to. But in the present, in the now, what I've been looking forward to since Julio first approached the idea, and what I will continue to look forward to throughout the summer, is our summer of MTV Movie Award nominated and winning films. I believe, Julio, you dubbed it the Summer of Bangers.
Yes, but there's an MTV in parentheses before bangers. The Summer of MTV Bangers, or Summer of Bangers. It's just we're going to revel in 90s nostalgia using MTV as the guide, right? Would you say that was the decade where MTV really had its finger in the pulse of the generation, at least as far as movies went?
It definitely knew what was popular, and for those of y'all on our Patreon, we're noodling with an idea of how we can bring a direct line from the award shows, because those are all available on the internet these days, and so stay tuned for that. But those award shows, the MTV Movie Awards, and obviously the Video Music Awards, the 1997 Video Music Awards being likely the peak of society, they really felt like they were genuine happenings. And for the purposes of film, they blended kind of some of the big awards darlings, but also, had some fun categories. And I'm sure as this continues on, we'll talk about a lot of things, their Lifetime Achievement Award that they would give out, and, just some of the fun that came along with it. Now, for the movie that's kicking us off here today, Julio, this was both an MTV Movie Awards darling, and also the big boys over at the Academy more than recognized this. We'll talk about it. Even took home. One of the players took home the Oscar. So, Julio, let's keep them out of suspense, even though they already know what it is because it's the title of the episode. But you picked our first movie, Julio. What are we watching?
Yes, I did. And speaking of patrons, if you're on our Patreon channel, then you have access to our little behind the scenes look at how we put this together. Alex and I drafting MTV Movie Award nominees and winners, putting together this list. So you know what almost made the cut, what might get discussed in After Hours. And yes, I think The Fugitive was my second pick, maybe. I had never seen it beginning to end. I just knew the key scenes, the ones that everybody knew because they were just everywhere. Trailers, awards, shows, Tommy Lee Jones saying, "I don't care." I mean, that's just part of pop culture. So I was like, hey, let's do it. Let's take care of this blind spot. Winner of Best Action Sequence and Best On-Screen Duo. So this is a twofer. That's not even getting into, as you said, Alex, the Academy Awards. So I think it's a strong opening. I don't know how many people think The Fugitive when they think the 90s. Did you, do you know, right on top of your head, if somebody had said The Fugitive, did you know, oh yeah, that's early 90s? Like Harrison Ford.
Oh yeah.
Post Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I guess I would have thought maybe late 80s. But no, that doesn't make sense because, yeah, Last Crusade is 89. So I don't know what he did between Last Crusade and The Fugitive, but this was his next big thing, I think.
And if you've never seen this either, and you've grown up anywhere near a television in your life, you know, I didn't kill my wife. I don't care. We're going to have some fun with this movie, but that's like a definitive quote from a film ever, immortalized in The Simpsons, where the FBI is hunting down Milhouse. Have you ever seen that? They reenacted the whole scene. He's going, but I didn't do anything. And it's like a Tommy Lee Jones, I don't care. And then Milhouse jumps off the dam.
Oh, so it's not Chief Wiggum saying I don't care?
No. And he jumps off the dam, and then you hear him land, and then you just hear the water rushing, and you hear a really faint, my glasses. And H. John Benjamin in the Wet Hot American Summer series, they reenact the jump off the dam as he's the can of vegetable Mitch. Iconic. Again, one of the more noteworthy in its field and certainly of its decade. And we're crossing some streams here, man. Tommy Lee Jones, respected actor Tommy Lee Jones, mixing it up with this sci-fi pretty boy.
Yeah, this is, like we said in that Patreon video, surprisingly, this turned out to be, at least going by the movies that we're going to cover, the decade of Tommy Lee Jones. Because we have two movies of his that we're going to be covering on the main feed, but then also in the past, right? Natural Born Killers is what, 94?
Natural Born Killers is 94, yes.
Yeah. And then later in the decade, Men in Black, I think it's 96. Mm-hmm. So Tommy Lee Jones is low-key the man of the 90s. Yes. Oh, The Fugitive, Natural Born Killers.
We got Batman Forever on the horizon.
Batman Forever, Men in Black. That alone, I mean, he's up there with Will Smith, with Sandler, Jim Carrey.
You're not wrong. Today's stop, though, is again The Fugitive, taking us back to 1993. Towering rating on Rotten Tomatoes of 96%. And this is based off of 84 reviews. It's not like one of our bigger ones, but still, it's got that beautiful certified fresh logo. And an 89% Popcornometer rating based on over 250,000 reviews. So people like this movie, Julio.
That's so weird that the Popcornometer is lower than the critical reception, because this is a crowd pleaser. Instead, it seems like not enough. I wonder if there's a lot of negatives from the audience, like the people that are hardcore fans of the show, the original TV show that this is based on, and they're like, this is bullshit. This is not what the show was like. I've never seen the show. Have you seen the show?
No.
The OG Fugitive?
The Fugitive, starring David Jansen and Barry Morse. This was created by Roy Huggins, and it aired From September 17th of 1963 to August 30th of 1967 on the ABC network.
4 years of running away.
Much like this movie, there's somewhere in the show, I'm sure someone asked the question aloud, couldn't they have like circumvented this? Couldn't he have just like called the marshal and been like, hey, let's meet up. I have this evidence that proves my innocence.
And the marshal goes, I don't care.
Yeah, Richard, that's right. I don't care. I'm not trying to solve a puzzle here.
96% Julio. Critics and MTV loved this movie. Which quotes did you pull for us for the first half?
All right, fresh tomatoes from the Rotten Tomatoes website. I'm going to start with Stephen Hunter from the Baltimore Sun, who says, The Fugitive runs hard and true the whole way through. Runs hard, Alex. This is not like Harrison Ford jogging.
He's bricked up the whole time, brother.
This is Harrison Ford sweaty from beginning to end. Next, Kenneth Turan from the Los Angeles Times says, The Fugitive is a super adrenalized stemwinder, a crisp and jolting melodrama that screws the tension so pitilessly tight it does everything but squeak. Have you ever squeaked while watching a movie, Alex?
Probably. Wild Things when I was 13. So Stemwinder is an entertaining and rousing speech.
Referring to Tommy Lee Jones's big Oscar moments here.
The dated definition is a watch wound by turning a knob at the end of a stem. Well,
that might be. But this, man, how old is Kenneth Turan? Making those references.
And that Julianne Moore is quite the fine trollop.
Yeah, he watched the original show.
Yeah, he was 47 when the original show came out.
Yep, reviewed every episode. Next, John Woolley from Tulsa World says, a fast-paced action-adventure picture written large upon the screen. It's helped along, in this case, by a couple of things. Some fine performances, especially from the two leads, and the collective cultural memory of lots and lots of baby boomers. So this is the opposite argument. This is saying that maybe the movie's not that great, but those original Fugitive fans, they showed up. The movie theaters.
This is me bitching about all the remakes, from 30 years ago. It's someone else doing it,
Yeah. They're like, who's asking for a movie about the Fugitive? Harrison Ford. All right, we're going to close with, Alex, one of the legends. Gene Siskel from the Chicago Tribune says, I've already seen The Fugitive twice. I'll probably see it again.
Good man.
Gene, don't you have a job? How many movies didn't get reviewed because Gene Siskel kept watching The Fugitive? Let Roger carry the load those weeks.
He left the screener for the Pelican Brief, in his mailbox. He didn't get around to seeing it that year. Dude,
that's another Pelican Brief. But speaking of legal thrillers, The Client with Susan Sarandon. Mm-hmm. That's another Tommy Lee Jones movie from the 90s. The man was everywhere.
And he was certainly here. And Julio, was that the last quote you had for us?
That is the last quote. Let's go to Contrarians Corner.
Are you suggesting that I killed my wife? Are you saying that I crushed her skull and that I shot her? How dare you?
Big old summer blockbuster here. August 6th release date. Budget of $44 million. Box office return of nearly $370 million. Good man. Directed by Andrew Davis. Screenplay by Jeb Stewart and David Twohy?
It's the guy from Chronicles of Riddick, right?
I believe so. Yes, sir.
His humble beginnings.
And also Riddick and Riddick Furia, which is currently filming. Oh, he was a writer on Waterworld. That's why I know his name. And he's returning to the podcast as he was the writer and executive producer of Terminal Velocity. Or wait, did we do that? Or did we do that on...
That's Spit and Polish. That was our Spit and Polish guest spot. One of them.
Yeah. But it still exists in Contrarian canon because of that.
Yeah, yeah. He's a man of taste.
Welcome back. In Chicago, Illinois, vascular surgeon Dr. Richard Kimball, this is Harrison Ford, is arrested for the murder of his wife, Helen. Despite his claims of catching a man with a prosthetic arm in the act, the lack of forced entry into the house, as well as Helen's misinterpreted police call for help and substantial life insurance policy all serve as evidence against Kimball, and he is sentenced to death. This movie starts, Julio, to put you dead center of the 90s with like the, it's like a 90s boxing ad for pay-per-view. Just the way it starts, it literally just says like Ford, Jones, The Fugitive. You know, it's
tonight at 8.
You just expect them to say, you know, at the Taj Mahal or Trump Plaza this summer. You know, that's what's coming.
I think you're gonna say that it starts with a very off-putting black and white, super long scene of Cilla Ward being murdered by the one-armed man. I did not expect a silly blockbuster from the 90s to just be so nasty from the very beginning. Do you know Cilla Ward from anything?
I don't think so.
Mrs. Kimball. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head of any other movies that she's in. Maybe The Day After Tomorrow, she might be in it. But she was one of the main characters in this TV show called Once and Again. It was about two divorcees and their relationship and their families coming together, and it was a really good show. And she was the star, and she played a very complex, very layered character. Nothing like what she's asked to do here in the Fugitive, where she's only supposed to either look really hot or look very much like a victim of a murderer. It's a waste of Cilla Ward. Was that just 1993, or was that Andrew Davis and the screenwriters showing their cards as far as, well, this is a man's movie. This is about dudes chasing other dudes.
I mean, it is a definitive dudes rock movie. Cilla Ward credited in Gone Girl, which I've definitely seen, but I'm not matching the face to her in that.
Oh, she might be the talk show host. Somebody that doesn't somebody interview Affleck at some point?
Yeah, that would make sense.
She's gorgeous, and I had forgotten because I haven't seen Once Again in forever. And like I said, it's not like she shows up in a lot of movies, but when we meet her here, when we see her alive in the party, I was like, man, Harrison Ford, good for you. And I was hoping that we would see this relationship fleshed out, but no, really, she's there to be eye candy at that party and then to be killed. That's it.
I think the biggest takeaway here from the opening is we have a bearded Harrison Ford, a bearded Han Solo.
Do you prefer him with the beard?
He looks pretty badass. And this, of course, being at the time that he was like, you know, a heartthrob. And so can just imagine people fawning over him when the beard reveal here. And the opening of this movie is like Julio described, but then, you know, it's the fastest a rich white guy has ever been put through due process. Because with like in the first 5 minutes of the movie, he's already sentenced to, you know, guilty for murder. It seems to be a bit of a witch hunt, and, you know, we'll eventually figure out why. The cops don't believe his story, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But Julio, I mean, this movie is not short on runtime. That's one thing that's for sure. But the opening here is basically they just go through the process of retelling the night that led to his wife's murder. Why didn't the movie just start there instead of like this black and white, like you said, scenes of intense violence directed at Cilla Ward? They could have just like started from the banquet, you know, so it could at least start the movie with Cilla Ward looking happy and not getting killed.
Right. Just sure, dancing with Harrison Ford, maybe having dinner together. They can talk about their plans for the future. This movie wants to get to the action fast, and in the process, it just steamrolls the legal system.
We don't even meet who his lawyer is. We don't even know what his defense is. The prosecuting attorney just basically tells the jury he's guilty, and they're like, sentenced to death. They sentence him to death.
I did not know that capital punishment was a thing in Illinois. Is that, I mean, it has to be true, right? There's no way that they just made it up for the movie.
Capital punishment in Illinois. Okay, the Illinois death penalty was abolished on March 9th of 2011. So technically speaking, and the last time someone was executed in Illinois was 1999. So
it was abolished partly because of the strong campaigning from Harrison Ford and
the negative publicity following The Fugitive.
Well, good for them. Good for all the Harrison Fords out there that didn't get a fair treatment from Chicago PD. These cops, they are not good representation for the police department over there. Wouldn't you agree? Like, why would you think that if he's going to make up a story, why would he make such a far-fetched story? Right? If you're going to say, I got there and there was another man who killed my wife, why would you come up with this really wild scenario where like, oh, he was missing an arm and he had a prosthetic arm?
It's the Pain and Gain, Tony Shalhoub. These were the bodybuilding ninjas that attacked you.
Yeah, we needed at least one cop going like, this sounds too outlandish not to be true. He must be innocent.
Truth is often stranger than fiction. I mean, just look at the reality we're living in right now.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a judgment of this court that you be remanded to Illinois State Penitentiary at Menard, where you will await execution by lethal injection.
En route to prison, Kimball's fellow prisoners stage an escape attempt. In the chaos, the driver is shot dead and their bus crashes into the path of an oncoming train. Kimball risks his life to pull out a wounded officer to safety before fleeing the resulting wreck. Hell of an opening sequence here, and it does qualify for the Alex Mattis fist pump of approval, as, I don't know if you caught it, Julio, the opening credits run well into 16 minutes into the movie.
I did notice that there were still jobs being called out as Harrison Ford was being sentenced to death.
And so we get this pretty over the top, for lack of a better expression, sequence here where these fellows are trying to stage a jailbreak in the bus transporting them. And it goes poorly for some people involved. As we mentioned just a second ago, Kimball saves one of the guards, and one of the other prisoners who escapes kind of helps Harrison Ford. He helps him up. He's like stuck in a trench or something. And then aren't they like around a campfire? And he's just like, I don't care where you're going, man. Just don't follow me. And then we get to a very Han Solo-esque line.
Harrison Ford bounces back from having lost his wife and his freedom. He's ready for a quip. It's like, hey, man, be good.
He's got his smile back. Copeland is the guy.
Yeah.
Eddie Bo Smith. He says, hey, Copeland, because he knows this guy's name now. He says, be good. The guy just kind of smiles at him.
I think my biggest, it's not a hot take. This is just like my alternate read of the movie that makes it make more sense, is that Harrison Ford didn't really care that much for his wife. Because if I had gone through what he goes through at the beginning of the movie, I would be an emotional mess.
Yeah.
I would not have time to be funny. I wouldn't have time to like stop and help random strangers, which he does all throughout the movie. I would be obsessed with getting revenge. And when I'm not chasing the killer, I would just be crying in a corner because it's horrible what happens. And we see it happen. So he seems so composed throughout the entire movie. And I get that that's just a choice, right? Like maybe that's what you get when you cast Harrison Ford. You don't cast Harrison Ford because you want him to crumble every 5 scenes or something, right? You cast him because he's an action star. Mm-hmm. But for this movie, for something so horrific to be the inciting incident and then to see him be kind of a standard action hero for 2 hours, it feels a little weird. And I think that that's one of the reasons why when people talk about The Fugitive, they talk about Tommy Lee Jones before they talk about Harrison Ford. Because Tommy Lee Jones feels like a real person and Harrison Ford feels just like an action hero, even though he's the one that suffered the tragedy.
And speaking of which, all of this requires the introduction of the relentless and uncompromising Deputy U.S. Marshal Samuel Gerard and his staff arrive at the scene, and they launch their manhunt. His staff includes our, oh man, it's been a long time since we talked to Joey Pants, but Titus Sinclair of Ready to Rumble fame.
Yes.
Yeah. He's also, he'll be showing back up this summer as well. But we got Joey Pantoliano, and then someone who has kind of like tangentially been brought up several times before, but Daniel Roebuck, who is a favorite of celebrated / disgraced Contrarians director Rob Zombie.
I was so happy that I recognized the name in the credits, because then I spent the first half of the movie trying to figure out who he was.
Like, I know this guy from somewhere.
Did you know the other guy? Not Judge Reinhold?
I had, because of his hair in this, it was not James Spader. That's who. And that was, what's his name in this? Newman, I think?
Newman, yeah. The kid.
And he is Thomas Mills Wood. I did know him because he is a perennial 90s that guy, showing up in other films such as Apollo 13, Under Siege, and most famously Bushwhacked, starring Daniel Stern.
Fantastic. That's an Alex movie. That is an Alex movie. Well. So the big speech, Alex, I don't know if you remember this. I remember it. This was I'm 90% sure that this was the Oscar clip for Best Picture. And that was Tommy Lee Jones giving his speech where he's telling people, giving orders, right? This is what we're going to do. This is a perimeter. You're going to search every hut, every corner, or whatever, and intercut with scenes from the movie and Harrison Ford writing. And like I said, this is the first time I watched this movie, but that sequence, because it was playing everywhere, and then at the Oscars, it was been branded in my brain. And I have to say, it's a lot more impressive in isolation. When you're watching the movie, that scene is sandwiched between Tommy Lee Jones and his team just being funny, chumming it up, almost, I dare say, improvising their dialogue before and after. Didn't you get that feeling that there was a lot of just riffing from these guys?
There's definitely some parts in this that I'm like, that might have just been on the spot.
Right? Like Joey Pant is talking about his shoes. Why is the lady that's in the team, why is she wearing heels? Tommy Lee Jones is like, get me a coffee. I don't know. It was like, what happened to the badass from the clips? I was expecting Tommy Lee Jones to be in badass mode, 24/7. And instead, no, there's a lot of him just being funny. That's not what I signed up for.
Not my Tommy Lee Jones.
No.
Not my U.S. Marshal. Meanwhile, Kimball sneaks into a hospital to treat his injuries and disguises his appearance. This consists of him. He stands in front of the mirror and he shaves his beard off, and then he stares at himself just like a linger too long. And then he says aloud to no one in particular, I guess I still have some healing to do. The wounded officer is brought to the same hospital and recognizes Kimball, who escapes in an ambulance. And Tommy Lee Jones has like the voice of reason here. He goes, where's he going to go in an ambulance? Like, seriously, like there's not a less conspicuous vehicle you could hijack than an ambulance. Maybe a cop car.
I think this movie proves time and again that Harrison Ford is a terrible fugitive, because he keeps going back to the places where they're going to catch him, right?
Yes.
If he was a fugitive, he would be getting the hell out. But instead, he keeps circling back to where the marshals are. It's like, please catch me. By the way, with the train derailing earlier when he escapes, that was the award. That was what got it the best action sequence.
That makes sense.
At the MTV Movie Awards. I get it because it's memorable. It kind of like gets the story rolling. But I think every other action sequence that happens here, whether it makes sense or not, like I think they're more spectacular. Starting here, right? Like when he's being chased, he's driving the ambulance. Tommy Lee Jones is chasing him in a helicopter. The other cops are chasing him in cars. They go into the tunnel, then he goes into the sewers, and that is the fun part, culminating in the Oscar clip. That was Tommy Lee Jones's Oscar clip. The I don't care.
I didn't kill my wife. I don't care.
The marshals block Kimball's path and he slips into a storm drain, pursued by Gerard. Kimball announces his innocence, but Gerard responds that he does not care. Cornered at the end of a steep, damp spillway, Kimball makes a dangerous jump into the water below to escape. Yeah, you're exactly right. And a line so iconic, when you watch a movie like this back, you think like, wasn't there more build to that the first time I saw it? Because this is all within the first act of the movie.
I thought that this was at the end. I thought that, having seen the Oscar clip, I thought that was the big climatic confrontation. I was like, oh, he's been chasing him for 2 hours. And then when they're finally face to face, Tommy Lee Jones reveals that it's just a job, man. I don't care. Mm-hmm. But no, it's done like 30 minutes into the movie. Where do we go from here?
We peaked on the phone, brother.
Yeah.
Driven to find his wife's killer, Kimball returns to Chicago and acquires some cash from his friend, Dr. Charles Nichols. Posing as a janitor, Kimball infiltrates the prosthetic department of Cook County Hospital to identify patients who required recent prosthetic adjustments. Afterwards, Kimball is asked to move a young patient on a gurney, but notices he's being misdiagnosed, and he changes the boy's file, saving his life. A doctor notices his interference. A doctor? She's got a name. She's an Academy Award winner. Right? Didn't she win?
I mean, I think she has. I don't know what for.
Did she win for that movie where she had like Alzheimer's?
Still Alex.
Yes. Yeah.
This is before that, Alex. This is pre-Freedom Land, Julianne Moore.
And a couple years away from Boogie Nights. But yeah, Julianne Moore shows up here. Gorgeous. And the best use of Julianne Moore, too, where it's just a little bit the star of the show.
Plucky Julianne Moore, who lets a child be abducted by a janitor.
No shit. And then that shot, he's like wheeling the kid away and he takes the kid's x-ray and he holds up to the light and he's looking at it. And she has that shot, where she's like, a janitor shouldn't be doing that, but still just lets him roll away with the kid. But, this is, we have these reoccurring moments of warmth and compassion from Harrison Ford. And we, the audience, saw how she got killed. We don't need to buy into that he's like a nice guy.
Right.
We know he's innocent.
Stop trying to tell us that he's a good guy. We got it. We don't need the side quest where he saves a kid and saves a cop.
He stores up his manor. It's the flashback scene where you just have to play through it. It's not as fun as the actual game itself.
So just to unlock a new ability. This is, by the way, by now he's already dyed his hair black, jet black. My note says Martin Sheen.
Still just
American
looks
prison.
like Harrison Ford, though.
Yeah. What is it? Is he trying to be Hispanic? Because at some point he speaks Spanish. And I was like, what is he doing?
There you go. Harrison Ford playing a Hispanic person. It's John Wayne playing Genghis Khan. That's the level of stunt casting we're working with here. He did dye his hair black, and then I have in my notes here the shot before he goes into the hospital when he's standing outside. It's like the morning and the wind's blowing, but it looks like his hair they didn't do it. They just rolled, and he literally his hair's fucking all crazy, and it looks like Harrison Ford went and auditioned for Alex Cox's Sid and Nancy for the Sid Vicious role. He's Harrison Ford, so he's a big kind of intimidating looking dude, but his hair looks like Sid Vicious. It's an insane sequence of events put to film. And you watch that and you're like, this is a movie where everything looks fucking perfect throughout. And this one scene flew under the radar where his hair was not touched at all, that Harrison Ford just rolled out of bed. It's the Mr. Burns. We did 20 takes, and that was the best one.
I think Andrew Davis knows that Harrison Ford never watches his own movies. I was like, that's fine. Nobody will ever notice. How do you feel about Dr. Nichols, who, minor spoiler, but of course, if you've seen a movie, you know this. He's a bad guy. I just wrote, not Bruce Campbell.
Ooh, good one. He is played by Jeroen Krabbe. Jeroen. He's Dutch, so sorry, brother. I know I'm butchering your name right now.
It's gotta be rough, man. You're the one major character in The Fugitive that nobody talks about. Julianne Moore got more recognition.
But he's also, this is an action movie from the 90s, and he has a European accent, so it's like, there's something bad this way, man, I'm telling you.
Yeah, it was too good to be true when he seems like he's a really, really, really good friend, right?
He gives him some cash,
yeah.
Tells him that he's not going to tell the cops shit. It's like, and he tells the cops, he's like, I saw him.
But fuck you.
There's a scene I interpreted as improv when the Tommy Lee Jones and his crew come to visit Charlie the first time, in which he said, you'll never catch Richard, he's too smart. And they all kind of look around like, we're smart guys, It's the smile and laughter is a bit too genuine to be something scripted, you know what I mean?
They did that one. That was the last take where Davis was like, all right, and this one, how about you guys just try something new? Just
have fun with it.
Have fun with it. You're not chasing a killer.
The introductory scene, though, of Charles, he has an absolutely banging 90s fit, though. He's got that Fila track top on, and, looks like he's maybe going to the gym, but maybe not. Maybe just wanting to put out the vibe. So definitely puts you in the mid-90s, early to mid-90s time capsule there with the fashion, and I do appreciate that.
I don't know if it's too early to discuss this, Alex, but I don't understand his plan. I mean, I understand what he was trying to do, why he's a bad guy and all that stuff, but I don't understand why he low-key protects Harrison Ford, because that doesn't benefit him at all, right? If he had just tried to trap Harrison Ford so the marshals can get him, instead of pretending that he's friendly to Harrison Ford and then actively trying to throw the marshals off his scent, wouldn't it have been easier for him, right? Like, because he knows once the marshals catch Harrison Ford goes back to prison and then to death row. So why is he trying to keep him alive? Like the one person that can ruin his master plan.
Maybe he thinks he's outsmarted Harrison Ford.
He's doing it for love of the game.
Yeah.
It would be poor sportsmanship if he just gives up Harrison Ford to the cops.
It's not part of his master plan. Not yet.
No. Instead, he's going to give his old friend it's the least you can do when you get your friend's wife killed. The least you can do is give him a chance to figure it out.
That's what he tells him at the end, though. He's like, you'd never give up. You just had to keep going. It's like, I guess he wanted to get to like a creamy middle to where he didn't quite figure it out, but he still got him like, yeah, that's a good. What is his plan in the end? Maybe he was just going to kill him. I don't know.
But then give it to the marshals. The cops, like the law, like U.S. law was going to kill him. He was going to be legally executed by Illinois.
Dr. Nichols, you really want to help him. You really want to be his friend. You're going to help us bring him in unharmed.
Why? So he go back to prison?
Gerard investigates the incident and deduces that Kimball is searching for his one-armed man. He also compiles a list of suspects. It's not really a montage, but during this sequence, we see Jones and his boys questioning some of the hospital staff that knew Kimball. We get a young and very good-looking Jane Lynch in there.
Yep.
Saying, I mean, it's quite obvious she wants to ride the Han Solo train. She's talks about how great he is and how she wouldn't give him up even if she knew where he was. And then, jumping ahead a little bit, there's a scene that they share together later on in the movie where the sexual tension, you just need a warm butter knife to cut through it.
So two things, Alex. One, I agree. And actually, to me, the question is, have they had sex already? Did he step out on his wife?
It's a fair assumption. Rich white people like that, everything seems perfect from the outside.
Do you think that he would be showing a lot more sorrow if Jane Lynch had been the victim?
He would have actually cried at some point.
Yeah. She made me laugh. It's so weird, by the way, to just see Jane Lynch in an action movie. Like that would never happen today.
It's both her and Julianne Moore when they show up. I'm like, a wild Jane Lynch appears.
But then the other thing is, it made me think of Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Oh, here we go.
Well,
yeah, Tom Adkins has that.
Yeah,
that side action going down.
Right, and it was the same thing where like it's never said explicitly, but you can feel the tension, and it was the same thing. The question, like, have they had sex, or are we just watching something that's been building up and still hasn't happened? I mean, by the end of Halloween 3, we know that it will never happen now if it didn't happen before, because the poor lady doesn't make it. But here, at the end of the Fugitive, maybe.
Maybe that's where the car you turned to. It was like, give me back to the hospital. I got a hot date tonight. Gerard and Kimball encounter each other at Chicago City Hall while approaching the same suspect, but Kimball loses him in the St. Patrick's Day parade. Later, Kimball breaks into the home of another suspect, Frederick Sykes. Recognizing Sykes as his wife's killer, he discovers evidence linking Sykes to his former colleague, Dr. Alec Lentz, and Devlin McGregor, a multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical company developing a drug called Provosic.
I think it's Provosic, yeah.
Provosic, okay. Kimball had reviewed Provosic and discovered it causes liver damage, which should have prevented the drug being approved for sale. He calls Gerard from Sykes' home to lead him there. Suspicious at what he finds, Gerard puts Sykes under surveillance, but Sykes sneaks away. Kimball realizes that the Provosec-afflicted liver samples he sent to Lentz were tampered with to hide side effects. They were then approved in Lentz's name on the same day that he died in suspicious circumstances. Kimball deduces that Nichols, Lentz's boss, was responsible. This is Charlie. And so, yeah, Harrison Ford is left to put together a whole hell of a lot in his head in this movie.
It's a bummer because I think that the movie works a lot better. The story works a lot better when it's just a random crime. Some dude broke into his house, killed his wife, and then because of the way things play out, Harrison Ford ends up being the prime suspect. And then it makes sense that he would just decide to devote his life to finding the real killer. And when you make it just a random home invasion, that feels more relatable. That's scarier. When you turn it into a conspiracy that has to do with pharmaceuticals, with just money, and then it's just, now it just feels clunky. And it really slows things down because you're right. He has to figure it out, and then he has to explain it to the audience. We need like several characters explaining what's really going on and how does this play out? Why are they doing it? And as we just proved a little bit ago, it doesn't even make full sense at the end because Nichols still wants to keep Harrison Ford alive for some reason. So I was a little deflated once we got to this part of the story. It was like, oh, now it's just complicated. And it's a movie about a guy chasing a guy that's also chasing another guy. It should be very straightforward.
A couple things to call out from the recap of that paragraph I just read through. It really seemed like the crew and director involved just wanted to feature the Chicago River on St. Patrick's Day. It's like, look, it's green. Isn't that crazy?
They even have that dialogue. There's more riffing.
Yeah, what'd you make of Hinky? Did you think Hinky was improv?
Absolutely. It's one of my notes. It's like Hinky, a short film by Judd Apatow.
Yeah, for those who haven't seen it, Grandpa from the Munsters, what's his name? Dan Roebuck uses the word Hinky. And Tommy Lee Jones is like, that's not a word. He's like, yeah, sure it is. Describes something suspicious. And there's a little back and forth. And then Tommy Lee Jones, leaves in a comedic huff. We also get great Tommy Lee Jones. I'm not here to call him a great comedic actor, but it did make me laugh really hard when they are trying to trap in Harrison Ford at the city hall. Says, close the gates. And he gets through the gates. And so Kimball, he escapes. And then Tommy Lee Jones, Gerard, walks up to the gates and they're still closed. And he turns around and goes, open the door.
My favorite moment in the movie is right before that when Harrison Ford he gets through the doors, but his foot gets stuck. And so he can't, he's trapped. And Tommy Lee Jones just opens fire, which I don't know if that was warranted. I guess U.S. Marshals can just shoot. Doesn't matter. But he just shoots and I don't know, 6 times and doesn't really hit Harrison Ford because the glass stops it. And there's a close-up of Tommy Lee Jones after he's unloaded and not hit Harrison Ford once, where he just looks so frustrated and he does this head tilt. And yes, man, I was laughing my ass off. I was like, yes, I get it.
He's just exasperated, come on.
Yeah. It's like, what is this bullshit? All fun and games, Alex, but that entire Irish sequence, you can take it out of the movie and it's all the same because this all happens because he goes to visit some dude in prison that ends up not being the guy that he's chasing. So it's just an excuse so that Tommy Lee Jones can run around this Irish festival and Harrison Ford escapes just by putting on a green hat. That's all he had to do.
It's the third sequence of Cat and Mouse, on full display where he's just running away from Tommy Lee Jones. And yeah, if you take this whole sequence out of the movie, it doesn't change it a bit.
There's is it before or after this? Speaking of riffing, where they're listening to the tape, the recording from what he called his lawyer, I think, and they're talking about the L train.
Yeah,
and then they're doing the enhance, so they can clear up the audio. That's also just a whole round table of these cops shooting the shit while they're working. It's a little too much. Just tighten it up, Davis.
I just want to make certain I have the chronology straight here. The suspect was tried, convicted, incarcerated, escaped, presumed dead, and is presently at large in the city of Chicago. Is that correct, sir?
All except for the part about being presumed dead.
There's a press conference with Tommy Lee Jones, and there's that actor, I can never remember his name, but not Adrian Brody. He's been in a lot of like small parts before. And again, I apologize, I don't recall his name, but do you know who I'm talking about?
It's he asks one of the key questions, right? Isn't he the one that says,
Correct.
like, if he came back, don't you think he maybe is innocent?
Yeah.
Which leads to, honestly, dude, this is the main problem with the movie. I got a moral sense. The thing that troubled me, especially because it's said by one of the most unlikable characters in the movie, which is, one of the Chicago cops. He says he's not innocent. He was found guilty in a court of law. And I'm like, he's right. I mean, that is, you may not like it, but that's really what due process is, right? You go through the trial, and then a judge, they find you guilty, and then they give you a sentence. And I mean, it's not perfect because nothing can be perfect, but what's the alternative? That you just let a potential criminal just run wild trying to prove his innocence? I mean, it's partly, Alex, our country is in the situation it is because the rule of law is kind of being thrown out the window.
Yep. Here
it is, like this really nasty asshole Chicago cop speaking the truth.
A dirty cop.
A dirty cop. It was like, he's guilty. The court said so. Stop trying to, like, if he can file an appeal. I hear that those exist. You could just keep appealing even when you're a death row, and then maybe
he is the voice of reason. Did anybody else see this shit? We went through a whole trial. So as we're looking here to the close, I did kind of ask aloud to no one in particular, does Harrison Ford own anything besides scrubs and a suit? Like, if you're trying to lay low, you shouldn't be walking around rough parts of town in a suit. That was one of my big takeaways here. I was like, dude, get a fucking ball cap and like a zip up hoodie, like a tracksuit or something, some sweats. But, Hogan must pose. Harrison Ford's got to get out there and, look all flossy for the viewing audience. And it's the most white man suits ever, too. Just like monochromatic, unmatching colors and shit.
Also, if you're a doctor that's on the run, maybe don't dress like a doctor. Don't hang out in hospitals.
Don't steal ambulances. Like, steal like a Miata or some shit. Aboard a train to the medical conference in the hotel where Nichols will unveil Provosic, Kimball is attacked by Sykes, who shoots an intervening police officer dead. And not just any police officer, Julio. This is Neil Flynn, better known as Dr. Jan Etor of Scrubs fame.
Doctors everywhere in this movie.
Did you not notice? You watched Scrubs, didn't you?
Casually.
Neil Flynn. I'm trying to think of what he would have. He's definitely that guy, but he was most famous for being the janitor in.
Oh, he's a janitor. Okay. I know the character. Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. There's an episode where he refers to himself as Dr. Jan Etor, and so that is always kind of.
I get it now.
What I remember him as. But yeah, he gets shot dead. He's not around very long. He has one line where he goes, "Kimball," and then bang. Kimball subdues, then handcuffs Sykes to the train. The police assume Kimball killed the officer, so order him to be shot on sight. So basically now Tommy Lee Jones, the U.S. Marshals, want to get to him before the Chicago PD does because they're just going to fucking kill him. At the conference, Kimball publicly confronts Nichols for killing Lentz and concealing Provosic's side effects for profit and a directorship at Devlin McGregor. The men fight through the hotel, across the roof, and into the laundry room, pursued by Gerard. Kimball accuses Nichols of sending Sykes to kill him for opposing Provosic, inadvertently resulting in Helen's murder as Kimball was unexpectedly called to work. Gerard calls out to Kimball, asserting his belief of his innocence after finding evidence of Nichols' guilt. Nichols knocks out Gerard's colleague. Oh, man. How's the person who wrote this going to do Joey Pants like that, man? He's got a name in this. He's Renfro. Cosmo. They call him Cosmo. That's right.
It's like Kramer.
He takes his gun and he readies to shoot Gerard, but Kimball saves him by attacking Nichols with a pipe. Kimball surrenders and Sykes and Nichols are arrested. He does. He fucking clips him out of the leg and then hits him over the back of the head with his pipe. And
Tommy Lee Jones nods.
Yeah, we don't get Tommy Lee Jones going, "You saved my life." But we walk right up to the line.
Yeah.
They kind of like give each other the knowing white man nod.
This is, it tends to happen with genre movies. The third act is where you're like, fuck it. Logic goes out the window. Nothing makes sense. And before we even get there, Alex, I think that the biggest, like, exhibit A in my argument that Harrison Ford didn't really care that much about his wife is that he has this big confrontation with the man that killed his wife. The man that he knows. I mean, it's, he was there. He found the body. In the trial, they played the 911 call. Like, he's got, like, in vivid detail, he knows what happened to his wife. He knows it was this man that did it. And they're there. They have a face-off in the train. Ford gets the upper hand. And all he does is, like, punch him out, bang his head against the wall, and then that's it. He walks away. Can you believe anybody would do that? Like, they would just find me and arrest me because I would just still be punching him by the time that the cops show up. I didn't buy it. I was like, I don't care how rational he is. He would shoot him because he killed Cilla Ward at the beginning of the movie in a horrific manner, right? Wouldn't you just stomp his head until it explodes or something?
Give him the old Vince Vaughn at the end of Cell Block 99. Just stomp his head into the toilet until it falls off.
There you go. Disgraced actor Vince Vaughn. Disgraced White House guest Vince Vaughn. He knows how to take revenge. I mean, Harrison Ford, need to take some tips from him. And then I don't know what the fuck he's doing for the rest of the movie. Harrison Ford, what is his plan? Like, we're making fun of Nicholas's plan, but why is Harrison Ford just strolling into this conference room? He doesn't even, I thought he was going to grab the microphone and just expose everything, but he's kind of yelling at, he's heckling Nicholas. He's not really doing a whole lot of exposing. And then he gets, after everything he's done in this movie, he gets blindsided with a chair. You probably like that part though, because that was very,
I did literally go ECW out loud when that happened. So, yeah. Yeah, my note says, you got to think this all could have been avoided. Because again, if he just called, he clearly has a direct line to Tommy Lee Jones, to Deputy Gerard. He could have just called him and been like, this is where I'm going to be. Come here. Don't bring the cops. I have everything I need to prove my innocence. And I know where the bad guy is. But
I don't care.
But if Richard Kimball was here, he'd, Oscar from The Office, he would turn and say, there's no theater in that.
So much running from Tommy Lee Jones in this third act. He keeps trying to catch up.
And so he has the best line of the movie where he goes, I'm tired.
I'm glad. I need the rest.
So is this the beginning of a beautiful friendship at the end?
My note says, what now? It's because he handcuffs him and then takes him into the squad car, and then he takes the handcuffs off and they kind of smile at each other. And he says, I thought you didn't care. And he said, don't tell anybody. And then they just drive off together. So he's still like broke out of prison. Or yeah. I guess he wasn't in prison yet, but he still broke out. And there's like a lot of like property damage and shit that he's going to have to answer for.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, if we're being honest, high-ranking officials in the U.S. government can get fellas out of those kind of binds.
Joey Pants get unceremoniously wheeled out with an oxygen mask on his face.
Oh, yeah. He took like that fucking steel beam to the head. And yeah, he's talking about, I'm taking my vacation now. Everyone in this movie is the I'm too old for this line from Lethal Weapon. That's Lethal Weapon, right?
Yeah.
I'm too old for this shit. Yeah.
Yeah. It starts with Danny Glover, but then by the time they get to the fourth one, it's both of them saying it.
So a bit of a question mark ending, if we're being honest. But, it sent audiences home happy.
Audiences in the 90s, it was like, that Harrison Ford, he can do something that's not a franchise.
It's true. And they got a fucking Best Picture nomination out of it.
What a time, Alex.
Shit, man.
That a movie like this could get a Best Picture nomination at both the Oscars and the MTV Movie Awards.
And to send us into real talk, I do feel the need to call out what it lost out to at the MTV Movie Awards, that being Menace to Society. The Fugitive was nominated alongside Jurassic Park, Philadelphia, and Schindler's List for Best Movie. What a collection of films.
Man, Spielberg taking two different approaches to winning the award and not panning out on either. It's impressive.
All right, Julio, should we move this along to real talk?
I don't care.